Many blessings. This is VerDarLuz from Divine Timing Coaching, and great to be with you all today. And wow, February is a massive month. We're in Aquarius season. We have Venus going into Aquarius, Mars going into Aquarius, Mercury going into Aquarius. But that means we're going to have a lot of Pluto aspects in the sky. So it's going to be a month of transformation, of empowerment, hopefully, but maybe some power struggles. My name is VerDarLuz, again, from Divine Timing Coaching. I'm a Western astrologer focused in locational astrology as well as human design, and using both of those tools for life and business support. So if that's of interest to you, let's be in touch. I'm also doing a human design for business VIP session. If you're interested in that, I'll put the link in the chat. So today, we're going to walk through the entire month, new moons, full moons, major transits of the planets into their new signs and aspects they're making. I'm also going to talk about individual signs, how they're going to be more affected. And I'm going to start today by telling you when the planets are changing signs and when the new and full moons are. Something to remember as we move through today is your rising sign is really, really critical because that tells you a lot where the houses are in your chart, like what signs are ruling what houses. And because of that, then we know that when certain planets are changing signs, they are changing houses. And that means a different area of life is going to be affected for you by that planetary shift. So that's why most of us astrologers will say, follow your rising sign, then maybe your sun and your moon in terms of following these bigger forecasts and cycles. And so just tune into that as you listen today. And I will share firstly the dates that you want to just put on your radar. And the first one is going to be, and I'm just going to list these out, and we'll see them when we pull up the chart and go through the actual horoscope day by day. But we have Mercury going into Aquarius on the 5th, 4th, 5th, depending on exactly where you are in the world, but right there. Mars will go into Aquarius on the 13th, and shortly after Venus will go into Aquarius. And this marks a really significant passage for us because Mars and Venus are going to be conjunct in the sign of Aquarius. So this should be very, very interesting in the middle part of the month. We'll talk about that, as well as the Sun and Mercury both going into Pisces, the Sun on the 18th, Mercury on the 23rd. And that's going to be really important as well, because then we're going to have both the Sun and Mercury coming to meet Saturn in Pisces. And that could be a very serious time of the year for a lot of us, or a major kind of accounting moment, right? Being responsible to our plan, maybe a good check-in for the entire year that we've intended. Are we being productive in the way we want? Have some pragmatic goals that are being realized or not? It's going to be a very strong placement for the full moon, which will be happening in Virgo on the 24th. But before that full moon at 5 degrees of Virgo, we'll have the new moon, and that's going to come at 20 degrees of Aquarius on the 9th. So we're going to look at the Aquarius houses being really activated for you, as well as the Virgo house with the full moon this month. But when we start the month, I'm going to share the screen with you, and you can see as we follow along, we are, we're just in a very new cycle here, right? Pluto and the Sun met at the 1st degree of Aquarius just recently in January. And this is marking, what most astrologers are talking about as this great shift of Pluto into Aquarius in the next 20 years. And so I believe that this month is going to show us a lot of, it's like a template, or it's like a preview, right? Like a trailer for a lot of what's really starts to emerge year after year with Pluto going into Aquarius. And so that's going to actually mark the first big transit of the month, which is when Mercury is going to transit into Aquarius and then touch Pluto. So every time you have a planet going into Aquarius, you'll see that it touches Pluto. Pluto's right here at 0 Aquarius. And so as the month starts, we're still in that big Capricorn surge, and there's a lot of responsibility. We're looking at, what we're dedicating ourselves to, being productive. It's a little bit more, earthy, practical, foundational, stabilizing. That's a lot of what we should be doing end of January, early February. because this month there's a lot of catharsis, potential chaos coming in, a lot of changes. It's very other oriented as the month unfolds. But as we begin, a lot of energy is surging towards our goals and our bigger objectives. So we're going to actually animate this chart here that you see, and let's do this. And you'll see on the 5th, 4th, 5th, there's that Mercury transit into Aquarius. And so, during Aquarius season, we always have a lot of energy that is, very innovative, very idealistic. The realm of friendships and community becomes more important for us, right? So that's already been happening with the sun by this point for a couple of weeks, right? We're maybe tapping into more communal events. Maybe we're thinking about the summer, like festivals we might go to. We're starting to really get our feelers out into the world in a big way. We're also becoming more aware of our patterns. Aquarius is a very objective sign. It's a sign of science in a lot of ways. And Aquarius is the great experimenter, and when you're entering an experiment, some experiments might not work out for you, or they might not be what you had planned. And so this is a month where like we might have a lot of experiments. Some of them might, tell us, oh, let's reorient ourselves, right? Now the first, big experimentations coming from Mercury. And so again, we're gonna usually with Mercury and Aquarius, we are really attuned to a lot more subtle vibrations, the ethers, the energy work. But right off the bat, when Mercury touches Pluto, and so you'll feel this the first week of February, really, the mind is going a lot deeper. It's asking why, it's researching. This is great for investigating, getting to the source of the problem, not the the cause, not the symptom, right? But usually what we see in the collective is that some big news comes out that reveals some, shadowy or dark or intense revelation around often politics, politicians, or those in power. That is typically like Pluto, Pluto rules power and wealth and influence. So Mercury is bringing some kind of news around that. Now, I think that this month we might see a huge acceleration in technology and especially in AI. And we just had an announcement from Apple, their release of their VR headset, but it's augmented reality. They're not quite calling it that, but this is really interesting and important because it seems to be maybe a precedent for what's coming, where we're going to, be able to wear glasses and, ways that we can basically, turn on and turn off through a knob, these other realms like the internet and everything that comes with it, and even multiple screens at the same time. And this is going to create some of that fragmentation that we could sense, is very Aquarian. Aquarius is a sign that has a lot to do with trauma. And in a lot of the past life work I do, you can see what happens with Aquarius is that it's a very nervous sign. It's very, can be very high anxiety. Part of that is because it's not quite embodied. It's the most ethereal sign of the zodiac. It's the second to last sign. But the trauma that takes place is, and for us, a lot of it is we are becoming more and more detached from our bodies as we spend more time virtually and swiping and in so many apps all the time. And of course, when you're in the collective, you see that most people are, on their phones in public most of the time. And it's a very different world, So what happens when we come to the point, which could be very quickly this year, especially as Jupiter and Uranus conjoin, just in April, right around the corner, a very, very rapid acceleration of technology and innovation, and potentially like a Brave New World idea and vision actually gets manifested during, or at least seeded during Jupiter Uranus, even if it's not right in our faces. But as we move towards that this month with Aquarius, the technology that allows us that kind of augmentation of reality of like, well, I'm here, but then I'm sort of not here at the same time. I'm in three other worlds at the same time. That is potentially very, disconnecting. on the somatic level. We have to be really careful with that. All of us more responsible. And some of those ideas will come in more and more. Again, the ethics around AI, whether that's for art creation or for students using it in school for reports and doing their work for them. But we all are all going to have a more constructive and very intentional relationship with artificial intelligence and with all of our technologies. And so something may be arising with this. This is right, near the date when Apple's releasing this. And I also think that, this month too, with all the Pluto transits, something's big is going on with the stock market. And you may see that, I know I'm researching a lot into a lot of tech stocks and tech ETFs. They grew so much last year, and this is probably the sector that's going to grow a lot. The stock market tends to improve during an election year in the US. And then there's the whole interest rates coming down that might improve the real estate market. So I think, collectively, there's going to be some big shifts with where people are investing time, energy, and money. And it's going to really amp up with Mercury, Pluto. Now we have to be careful to be, projecting kind of manipulation in any way, being too paranoid. There may be some strong amount of conspiratorial talk going on at this time, but it's also a rallying. This whole month is going to be a rallying around groups of people. And if you've listened to anything going on with the borders, like in the US, but around the world, right? This is a major issue. And it's surprising and it's moving and it's complex. You have, Bangladeshi and Mexican and Salvadoran and all different kinds of people from all over the world at the borders. And the scenes are extreme, and of course this is a major political issue. And those kinds of nebulous borders and people's movements are really connected with the signs of Aquarius and then Pisces. And the fact that Saturn is going through Pisces, and Saturn is a big player this month, Pisces dissolves boundaries, but Saturn wants to put them up. And so I think there's going to be a real challenge this year around that idea of sovereignty, both as an individual and how I relate to others, and as a collective, and as an ethnicity, as a nationality, the sort of identifications that we have from the most base physical level of like my stuff and who I, think I am through the things I own, to, the thoughts and feelings that I have, to my physical body, to my affinities or, associations in the world, to then my spiritual self, and then myself that is, watching this whole process, my absolute self. That sense of identity is really going to come into our frame of focus this month and next month, as we approach the eclipses end of March and early April. And so let's keep watching that theme. And as we move forward, again, Mercury, Pluto, be careful with not pushing or being forceful or aggressive with your words. We've already had that with Mercury and Mars. They're still together in the sky at this point. Mercury's, finishing off that journey with Mars, which can make us more aggressive, more reactive, more irritable, and defensive, but also motivated. And this could be a very motivating cycle. We might want to give a very influential message when Mercury is with Pluto. But it's a great time for therapy. It's a great time for esoteric studies, research, like I said, and really uncovering the truth of something, excavating into that. And as we move forward with this, we're going to see that on the 9th is our big lunation, first lunation of the month. This will be a really intense day here on the 8th. Now, this is Pacific time, but pretty much that whole day, Moon will be with Mars and then Pluto. And we're getting towards that Mars-Pluto conjunction starting to come in. It's going to be really active all the middle parts of February, second 2 weeks. This is really triggering. This is very potentially aggressive or combative or competitive. I would be very physical that day. And get yourself like in the gym, hiking or skiing, whatever you can do, physical, and be very careful to be really reactive or very pushy or forceful with that energy. But then we move to the new moon, which is going to have a little bit of that Mars Pluto action, even some Venus Pluto, but it's right after this, a little bit later in the day that day. But on the 9th, this is so interesting because what starts to be exact now is what a lot of astrologers have been talking about too this year, and it has to do with the eclipses, and it's Chiron. It's Chiron with the North Node, and there's so much we could say about this, but I think everybody's feeling this, that what's arising for a lot of us is a need to heal our separation wound, which is our primary wound. In the Course in Miracles, it talks about this, that our suffering is coming from the idea of separation, and that it's very, very deep concept that some part of the great spirits of God, of consciousness, thought it could be different. And in an extreme version, it would be the devil or Satan or Shaitan, who continues to identify that way. But when we do that, and we stay in the victim story of some kind, that's a negative Chiron expression or shadow Chiron expression. Now, when we see that storyline of separation, and then we move in the direction of integrating that and being of service, often in the way that we've hurt the most. So if I had a certain kind of trauma growing up, or even I've tuned into something from another lifetime or in the womb, right? I do a lot of rebirthing work, breath work. Sometimes we can go back into the womb and find, oh, there was like a whole storyline going on with my parents. And I am embodying that, maybe around like not a lot of money, right? Or not being wanted, or being, the girl instead of the boy, or something along those lines, woundedness early on is a Chiron expression. And then how we integrate that and then be of service and be of mentorship is really the higher expression of Chiron. And collectively, we are all stepping into that role of, how do I become the wounded healer, who is not identifying with the wound anymore, but now a coach, a guide, a healer, a mentor. And this is very strong when the eclipse happens this year. That's going through Texas and other parts of the US and Mexico, but it's going to affect all of us. And there may be a great wounding. It may be something related to war. It may be, some positions of power. People might, we might see through something. Of course, that's happening in the US right now, with the whole political scene being quite a circus show. And, it's something that brings up a collective wound around the US. The US has its Chiron in Aries, and about the same degree. So we're experiencing our Chiron return, and we wonder, is that going to be a great awakening in this country? Is it everyone stepping into their coach and their entrepreneur and their leader, right? These Aries archetypes of being motivated and being driven and being passionate about what we're doing? Or is it being violent and aggressive and combative and defensive and my way is the right way, and we need to learn. And this month is a big month for this, because when we move into Aquarian energies, we have to learn how to partner and affiliate with people who really get us and we get them, and we have the same goals and causes together. And that's the nature of a new moon in Aquarius. Like, what vision do I hold that I'd like to see realized in the middle of the summer and August time, when we have the full moon in Aquarius? And again, this might be around certain festivals or travels, or a different kind of creative unfoldment of your work within a community and what you're receiving from that community. So, but note again that this is moving us into this Mars-Pluto conjunction, which just gets stronger and stronger. And look at this, the week of Valentine's, or, the day dedicated to love. It's exact, Mars and Pluto, and Venus is only 3 degrees away too from Pluto. So we got Mars, Venus with Pluto, the god and goddess. So let's kind of break down some keywords for Mars, Pluto, for Venus, Pluto, what Valentine's might look like, what the coming weeks might look like. This is intense, and it's going to be really valuable if you can be really committed to something when Mars is coming to Pluto, and kind of like consciously obsess over it. Now, first degree of Aquarius. This could be, something big in a community. Like, let's say you are putting on a festival, you want to be a team member for that, or a big event that could awaken people, or all the coaches can come together. I know that's happening where I am in Grass Valley. There's a monthly event where different coaches can come, or teachers and healers, and share what they're doing and their work, and kind of like a craft fair, but more for mentorship and guidance. That could be incredible to be a part of during this cycle, this month, and this energy of Mars Pluto. What can empower each of us the most, instead of how can I try to control or be in power over others? Mars Pluto coming off of Mercury Pluto, there could be like manipulation, or emotional hooking. It could be quite dark. It could be a little violent, actually, and that's why we say, like, go to the gym, work out a lot, be very aerobic, do some kickboxing or martial arts would be a really great expression of this. This is deeply psychological as well. So, like, what's really motivating you? What are your deeper desires? This is also extremely sexual combination here. Mars, Venus, and Pluto. So, practicing sacred sexuality, Tantra, but also it might be a lot more physical than that. It might be more, look at like BDSM and bondage, for instance. That's a very interesting one, because it kind of connects with, a Mars and Venus in Aquarius type of archetype, because yes, you're in your body, but like there could be like, maybe there's a group event where you're learning how to tie, right? Now this is very Aquarian. It's kind of a newer or more exotic or a little different, maybe paradigm shifting for a lot of couples or individuals. And we're in a group experience, which is an Aquarian kind of love ideal. It could be the sign of the orgy, and it could be the sign of, we're out at Burning Man dancing and at the festivals, and I'm in love doing that, right? But in terms of how we, express this Pluto energy, working with power and having no power, right? Or like the idea of like, a bottom and a top, in the realms of sort of BDSM, that kind of stuff comes up here. And you might want to have a lot of conscious exploration of power dynamics in relationship over the Valentine's week, and play with some realms, that may be edgy. Of course, you want to be careful with this, but if that aggressive energy is going to come up, like, why don't we do some play fighting? Why don't we do some, let the animal archetypes of love and love making come out of me and my partner, right? That can be a really great expression. Fears can be rising with Mars Pluto, and also with Venus Pluto. Jealousies can be coming up, possessiveness. So these are the shadow realms to watch for with Mars Pluto, and with Venus Pluto as well. Like with Venus, though, instead of sort of surging towards power and impact in the world, maybe, and maybe in our work, or just this like sort of raw physical energy of Mars Pluto. I always think of Tom Brady, the American football quarterback, one of the greatest of all time, who won 6 or 7 NFL Super Bowls. He's a Mars Pluto, endlessly competitive, just constantly on the conquest, being excellent, being the best, retired later than anyone else, like never, always thirsty for more, right? And we have to be really careful for like just constant aggression, but this can make us resilient, and that's why we want to be focused with this. With Venus Pluto, we have to really watch with being obsessed about a partner, or a certain principle that we hold, and because Venus rules the arts, one of the great ways of expressing this could be through like maybe darker exploration of darker arts, and like the macabre, or like the gothic, or like some Tim Burton work, or Neil Gaiman maybe, or some horror, or like psychological thrillers. I think of someone really popular the last couple of years, Blake. What's his last name? Kraut? Crouch. But he's got the books Dark Matter and Recursion and another one. These psychological thrillers that are also very prescient for now. Maybe books about AI, or movies. I could list a ton, but like my favorites being like Ex Machina. And one of the great ones you should watch over Valentine's is Her, because Her is about falling in love and having relationships with AI. And here we are, right? A season of love. And it's really brings up a lot. As do all AI movies. Archive is another good one. Um, Transcendence, lots of great ones now coming out. I guess the creator was popular this year. So move the energy cathartically through those experiences of art, and but look at what is the balance of power in relationship? Um, how deep are we? And this is a cycle where, like, if you are on the surface at all in any relationship, um, that's not going to cut it anymore if it ever did. And you're going to want to really probe into the why. You're going to, seek out the meaning behind an action, and like, you'll see through appearances, um, and you're going to want to appear more powerful. Um, there could be a lot of flirtatious energy. Venus and Mars are coming together for a long time now, a lot of this month. Then Pluto adds this like really big hunger and thirst, or like secret loves, um, certain kinds of addiction in love and relationship, um, compulsive relating, maybe like just too many social events, or like, getting too attached to a partner. Um, but ironically, as Venus and Mars are moving through Aquarius, like Aquarius can be a very detached sign. Capricorn is very like practical, productive, pragmatic. It wants something that feels very real and committed. Aquarius wants freedom. It wants experimentation. It wants something novel and new. So consider, like, what are innovative ways that I can be in love and in social life, in friendship, new kinds of experiences. And then Mars, what's driving me to be an experimenter, be like sort of a mad scientist with my life, and different kinds of events that maybe are hybrid or experimental that can awaken you, especially something more metaphysical, and social at the same time, astrology groups, right? Human design, numerology. You could do things like family constellation, for instance, another group process that taps into the group mind. So there's a lot of ways of expressing this. Now, during the new moon, and the week of Valentine's, actually, you have Mercury starting to approach this Uranus square, which will come up just as Venus comes into Pluto. And so again, just think this whole week until the 17th, 18th, 19th, 20th, Mercury comes to square Uranus. And that can make the mind kind of erratic. There could be some news that changes the orientation or the direction of our lives, or probably, again, something big technological happening. There could be, this is very disruptive, disruptive technology, disruptive news. But we can also be kind of cold or sharp or distant in our communication, especially so much Aquarius, that's the shadow of Aquarius, is coldness, aloofness. And then you add the square to Uranus from Mercury, and, it could be nervous energy, it could be anxious energy. But there could be a lot of downloads and epiphanies and awakenings. Again, I love the study of metaphysics during this time, watching ourselves, studying our patterns, reflecting on our lives. You could do memoir writing, for instance, and especially with that Chiron energy, the healing process becoming very important, looking at the traumas that we've experienced. So trauma informed everything this month is really important. As we move towards, let's take us to the full moon, which is the 24th. This is very significant because this is, just days before when Mercury moves into Pisces. And then you have the moon here in Virgo. So it's actually at 5. It'll be exact for the full moon. So look at where the Virgo part of your chart is. It's opposite the Pisces part. The Pisces has had this year now, it's almost been a year now that Saturn's been in Pisces. So this full moon is a big reality check of like, how am I doing with Saturn and Pisces, in this house, in this area of life? Um, am I being responsible? Am I being systematic? Do I have solid foundations here? Am I establishing steady growth? In general, the Saturn and Pisces transit, which gets activated with this moon and Mercury coming to Saturn and the sun coming at the end of the month, it could be a lot about our emotional health. It could be our ability to work with the archetypal domains and the mythical domains and the collective unconscious and how we are connected. I do work with the asteroids, which I think is one of the best ways of understanding the myths, and also like places and historical moments and times and peoples that are living in your soul. When you have asteroids that are conjunct your sun or your moon or your nodes or any part of your chart, those are very specific storylines. And, when we get to Pisces season, always at the end of February, our individual self starts to dissolve, right? We've started to meet our tribe in Aquarius and our friendships and our affiliations. And then we really start to meet spirit and, the ego. Sometimes we get more sick at that time of the year. Coming into March, people get more sick, but it's a good time to do more inner work, more spiritual work, more retreat, writing, art. And so, checking in with the mental health. I will say again, just backing up a little bit, that this is the month of shadow work. I have a new journal. It's called Zodiac Shadow Play, and it's on Amazon. But it's a journal that allows you to kind of access the shadow space through prompts. And this would be the month to do your shadow work. All of that Pluto, Mercury, Mars, Venus. Especially Valentine's Day. Do an event, or you could do an event, or you could do a one-on-one with your partner where you really are working with some unconscious material, shadow material, or something that feels uncomfortable, and you just create a really safe temple, maybe some candles, a safe space for that. And then that can move into a beautiful, deep, healing, alchemical, these are all, good Venus, Mars, Pluto type of love ritual, right? I'm working with couples, a lot this month coming in, and this would be the month to study your composite chart. Especially before this full moon, during that Mars Venus, they're exactly conjunct, a lot of the month, but especially the first 2 weeks. Study who you are as a couple, whether that's in human design or as astrology, and then how do you honor the third, so if you're interested in that, let me know. I have some specials for Valentine's, but I love working with the composite chart because it actually teaches you the nature of the relationship itself. And it could show you, should we have children, or should we take a trip abroad? Should we live abroad? Should we form a business together? All the different questions of like, what do we do together? What is our creation relationship, our creationship? And what is it now? And that gets into the timing, right? And so these things really come up this month, and that can be a great expression also of a full moon coming in Virgo. Virgo wants to be more detail oriented and analytical and critical, especially when it's opposite Saturn. There's a heavier voice there of responsibility, and usually, when the sun comes to Saturn, you're going to see the last week here after this full moon. Here's the sun. 27, 28 exact, and same day on the 28th. This is a big day. The sun, Mercury, and Saturn all conjunct in Pisces. The idea here of manifesting a Piscean vision, bringing, your story or your art or your myth or your magic into form, right? Not just living in the possibility or the ether, but bringing it into form. Sometimes though, Mercury, Saturn is quite cold or distant in the way that it communicates, but it can also be very, strategic and calculated and good for planning and organizational. Now we're in Pisces. So Pisces is very, there's no sense of space and time with Pisces. So this is quite interesting, and I think that it could be a great time to be doing more mental health work, more therapy, some dance and embodiment, but like make a commitment to a practice around your spiritual self, around your artistic self. That would be a great Sun, Saturn, Mercury, Saturn. Saturn loves commitment and discipline. So, but something really strong is coming here. This is called Kazemi when the Mercury is with the Sun. There's usually a very important message during that time of the month. And if you want to give an important, maybe spiritual message or inspiring, launch an album, maybe I'll release a new song during that time. Sun Mercury in Pisces, beautiful time for a really inspiring, meaningful, unifying message. Something probably will be released in the public during that time. It might have to do with government. I don't know if in the US if that's the Fed or something like that, because Saturn, of course, rules institutions like the government. But this could be news around the seas and like who has access to what cargo, and maybe some kind of weather situation or big storm situation. Pisces as a water element. But there could also be some blocks, and be careful with Mercury, Saturn, because a lot of times our travels could be blocked or challenged, or there could be delays. So if you have to travel like last days of February, be cautious around that, or prepare for some delay. It'll be better once Mercury leaves, first week of March. But I would expect something more, collective and that we all tap into during that time. These are, I'm going to see my notes if anything else was jumping out. We do have some squares to Jupiter this month. Mars is going to be squaring Jupiter right here in the end of the month. Venus does that days before. You have to watch with overindulgence with Venus square Jupiter, which is going to be here February 25th, days before, days after, a couple days. Be careful what you're spending around that time. Look at your spending habits this month and really watch yourself. Get sort of the reality check around that. That's going to be really important. Don't spend sort of impulsively. Venus, Mars, square Jupiter. That Mars, kind of maybe if I get in a fight with a partner, which could be a very Venus Mars thing, then I go, spend $100 on a haircut and new clothes, and that 100 becomes 200 because then I meet a friend and we have drinks and then we have a great meal, and but I spend so much on it, right? Not saying to not enjoy life, but this time could be, you have to be a little careful with that. So Mars Jupiter too gives us a lot of energy, a lot of enthusiasm, a lot of amplified leadership potential, but it could make any aggression that we have more extreme. So we want to be careful with that, especially coming off of the Pluto. You could see that there's volatility in the sky this month. Mercury square with Uranus, all the Pluto transits, amplified with Jupiter. But this is not something that we can't handle. And there are some great opportunities. Jupiter and Saturn are in a sextile all month, and that does get triggered this month, especially at the end here, which is a great way to manifest our goals, to be practical with our paths of inspiration and teaching. If we're doing any teaching, we can kind of get real with a Jupiter kind of download or intuition. So, but it is a month of we got to survive this month. It flows more during the month of March without so much Pluto action. But these are the big cycles this month. Now, I'm going to just be brief in looking more specifically at some charts for the rising signs, and we'll just back this up. But you can kind of get the flavor that the Aquarius house is going to be the dominant house this month, and the new moon, whatever house that is for you, right? That's going to be landing in your Aquarius house. And like I said, if you're an Aries rising or Scorpio rising, you want to really look to that when Mars changes position into Aquarius. and comes to Pluto. Sorry, let's get that day back up, because that's a very significant day for Aries and Scorpio risings, because Mars rules your chart. Um, so note this, and of course it's right with Pluto right away. That's on the 13th. Valentine's week is huge for you guys. And but for all of us, and actually, if you look at just a couple days later, Taurus and Libra risings, as soon as Venus changes into Aquarius, again, affiliations, network becomes really important for you. There's going to be, it becomes really intense right out the gate. And so I would look at the 16th, 17th, Taurus and Libra risings, where Venus is making that shift, and you're going to look at, okay, how am I in an empowered relationship? Am I having more impact through the people I know? Am I having an influence? Do I have power struggles? Am I obsessing in a way? What's really motivating my behavior in relationship? Am I attracted to energy that I didn't even know I was attracted to, right? This might come up for a lot of us. And I think this is a very interesting month around different kinds of sexual experiences, as we were saying, or attractions. If you've never been attracted to the same gender, maybe you start feeling that, or there's opportunities to explore that just maybe weren't present before. Again, just ways of certain group experiences where there's this much more alluring, magnetic, intense, erotic energy in the field. And so again, you can use this very creatively, and especially for that week, Scorpio risings, Aries risings, and Taurus and Libra risings, that's going to be a big shift for each of you this month. And then you'll have to look at, again, which house you're going to have a lot of that Aquarius energy for the new moon, and then the Virgo house. So if we just I'll just go to the new moon here, and you'll see that here we go. So Aquarius risings, all that's happening in your first house. So there's got to be a lot of energy about how you're identifying in your community. That's going to be really strong this month. And, it starts to move forward from there. Basically, we start to look at, Pisces rising, that there is, there's going to be a lot of the energy in the 12th house with the new moon. And so it's saying there's going to be intentions around our spiritual development, our inner work. Maybe we're a little bit behind the scenes more this month, with a lot of the Aquarian placements. The hidden lovers can be a part of that Venus, Mars, and Aquarius. So be aware of that. And then look at Aries risings as, again, important with North Node Chiron. There's some healing you're doing hugely this month and this whole year, especially during the eclipses. You look at also the 11th house of community, of people that have same goals and causes and ideals as you, being really triggered this month with all that Aquarian energy and the new moon there. So what are you seeking to grow and the direction you're going? There's important affiliations and alliances this month for you, Aries risings. And for those who are a Taurus rising, we talked a little bit about this, but the 10th house of career is super activated. So professionally, is your calling aligned with, like what you're calling in? Is it aligned with what your soul really wants in your life? Do you feel like you're constellating a great group of people that you can be serving? Very, very career focused month for you, Taurus risings. Gemini rising is a lot about faith and belief and ideals. You may be teaching more, thinking about foreign travel. The new moon may be planting seeds for those ideas. Come maybe August, where are you going to be? Is it abroad, or is it something around going back to school or higher education, or maybe something to do with law, or your beliefs getting really triggered with all that Aquarian energy? With Cancer risings, the moon cycles are always very important. So definitely follow the new and full moons this month. It's going to be landing in your eighth house, a lot of the Aquarius energy. And you're seeing Placidus here, but I usually use whole sign. This is actually a new software that I'm using. I'm not sure how to change the houses right this moment. But a lot of the Aquarius is going to be in your eighth house, Cancer. Deep time of the year. It's a time to really do the shadow work, the psychological studies, be working with the esoteric realms, looking at how you're blending resources with others in your life. Are you empowered through certain connections? What's happening with your partner's finances? How are you sharing a home or other ways that you're sharing with a partner or with others in your life? It's a much deeper psychological month coming up, and I would say there's a lot of relationship issues that might be surfacing that need to be addressed. A lot of emotional issues, maybe even inherited patterns that might be present for you that you really want to work on and work through in a gentle way in your relationship. Now, relationships are really huge for, the Leo risings, because it's, your seventh house of partnership here. And you're going to see that, over the month, there's like four planets that end up hitting your area of partnership. So if you're not in a relationship, let's look at that, kind of right here. You probably will get into a relationship. Now, again, very sexually charged, usually a lot of sensuality or desire for that, Leo risings, this month. And be careful with any power struggles there, or really like what's motivating me in relationship. Issues should be rising in partnership. If you are in one, Mars being there for the next month and a half, 2 months, be careful to not be too frictional, too confrontational, but more, intentionally like competitive, like push each other towards excellence, and have really healthy sexual practices this month with Mars in your seventh house of partnership. Sixth house for Virgo. If we, sorry, we move this forward. Oh, too much. Still getting used to the software here. So we have Virgo rising, and it's going to emphasize the sixth house, the area of health. And so, yeah, just getting into a really healthy regime every day, regimen, what I'm eating, spiritual practices, sacred work that I'm doing, devotion that I'm giving to the world. Be careful to not work too hard during this month. And there may be, certain duties, certain, maybe you're falling in love with an employee, with all that energy of Venus, Mars there. But build some really solid networks of daily interactions, daily connections. This might emphasize pets for you this month as well. Libra risings, the Aquarius month is going to bring up a lot with, creativity in your children. And, it would be a more fertile month of the year if you're trying to have children. But, exercising, play, and romance could be a big month for that. Probably some good energy around you for that. So enjoy that. And then Scorpio risings, fourth house, a lot of energy moving through the whole fourth house. Maybe you're moving or thinking about it with Mars there for the next 2 months. But Venus can beautify the home space, the sun being there, Mercury being there, a lot of work on the home or with the family of origin. And could be some family ancestral healing work. Or if you live in community or there's good community around you, a lot more time, like maybe potlucking or in communal events that feel really like, oh, this is my home. These are my people. This is my tribe. Sagittarius, it's a third house, big month, a new moon energy on the 9th. Marketing, sharing ideas. Sag loves to do this, but getting more drilled down to the details, and communication being a big theme this month. And maybe little short trips to learn, or some online teachings, webinars, trainings. A really good month to get your mind wrapped around topics that you want to share. And then we move again to Capricorn and the second house. So this is a time where you could earn a lot more money, but be careful with overspending this month. Both earning and spending more, but very motivated and driven to earn more and to increase your sense of self-worth with the second house being so activated by the new moon coming in. Increasing your values this month, really, really big. And looking at relationship to values and money. Pluto's going into your second house for the next 20 years. You might be earning your living more as a therapist or a shaman spirit or esoteric practitioner. But it's a big month for a lot of us. And so as we conclude today, just want to invite everyone to, really be gentle with yourself through all the Pluto transits, but also not too gentle. Like go into the depths, excavate into the soul. Why am I behaving the way I am? Why am I attracting what I attract? Look at your patterns. Why have I always attracted this? This, I think, is the best month, again, for astrological study, human design, numerology, systematically looking at the self. And if that's of interest to you, if you'd like to do some locational astrology, human design, or relational astrology, or business-based work, tune into the webinar coming up. It's second week of February, right after Valentine's or week of Valentine's. And if you'd like to sign up for my newsletter, you could do that on my website, Divine Timing Coaching. It's been great to serve you today. And I really hope that you have, a peaceful and powerful, coming in of the Valentine season, and wishing you all the best. So happy Aquarius season, February. All the best. Namaste.